on the shifter. So I pulled a 4L60E that I had in stock. It's not even cleaned up yet, still has a dirt daubers and the dirt on it. But I like this one because it still has the bracket to mount the transmission cable, the neutral safety switch, brindle switch, and the lever. And if some of you don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, the 4L60Es, the detents, are actually in the transmission itself. Now, I'm not a transmission expert, will not claim to be one. I simply put them in and take them out. But what I'm thinking is we can make a simple shifter that uses that detent and uses all the factory shifting cable assembly, and all we have to do is make the shifter and it will be ready to go. So this one, as you can tell, was from a junkyard, so that's that half of the, or part of the cable, and that's gone. So what I did was I went out and bought an aftermarket one. So this is the shifter cable part. It'll clip into that mount, and then this is the part, I'll show it to you. This is the part for the transmission. So it's quite simple. It's about 175 thousandths hole on that end. We just have to make it clip into that mount. So let me show you what I've been designing on the computer. It's been a couple days not feeling well, so I took my computer home and did some design work. So this is what I came up with for my prototype shifter. So right in here, this area here is where the shifter cable will come in, and it's going to be kind of hard to see, but there's 3 holes here, and that is where the cable will actually, the inner part of the cable will actually connect to it. This part will rotate, there's a couple ball bearings in there, and just a 1/4" screw on each side. A little nut, of course, but so we'll cut that out and see what it looks like. As usual, I always put these on my workbench, and they're basically the same color as the pieces parts, but this is the front. You can see that is where the cable connect. That's the base, or the sides, another side, and in the back. And this is where the shifter actually goes. So from the top, I've got it designed right now to use a 1x1 rectangular tubing. And then there will be a pin that goes through here. The cable will be in the middle, and then we'll attach it on some sort of point here. So, of course, we'll have a couple bearings, which I'll show you when we get ready to put it together, that go in here. But all I've done so far on these is just grind them so they're not too sharp, get all the burrs off, and start test fitting them. Everything's tacked together now, and actually works. So what I did is in this piece here, there's a 1/2" hole, and in that is one of these little seal bearings, got off Amazon. Got a little flange on it. Still haven't figured out how to get the second washer down in between there yet, but again, this is just a prototype. So in a sense, you put the cable in the hole here. I have a number 10 screw going through here, and that's what'll work it. But I already know I think it's a little off because I designed it so this distance here is at a park position. So that means as you pull it into gear, this is going to go back. So we'll check it in the car and see what I like, what I don't like. But this will at least get us started, and then we can start building the console that attaches onto the transmission tunnel. And since this stuff is already saved, if I need to remake this I can, but this is tacked together enough now to try things out. got the new cable hooked to the shifting lever. And I found out I can adjust the length in here. So I had to lengthen this because of a little mistake in my design I have. And this goes up to my concept shifter, which is now the prototype. Because I needed like 5.9 inches from the mounting point to this surface. Well, I did 5.9 inches from this surface to the pivot. As you can tell, there's about 1.5 inches, 2-inch difference here. So, we put a spacer in. Now let's see if I can do this one-handed. It'll go into drive, but that's about it. If you could hear that. So of course I can't push it forward because it's not attached to anything, but that's kind of how it works. So we'll update the design, make some new, basically make a new base. I'll either remove the whole back, or probably do a combination of moving the whole back and move this forward. But so far so good. I think we can use that as a prototype for inside the car, and then we can continue making changes to it, knowing that we have to lengthen this out about 2.5 inches. But anyway, I'm happy with that. So here is the stock setup. This is not in a 2000 to 2007 GMC or Chevrolet Suburban, Sierra, Tahoe, pickup, anything. It's actually now in a 69 Ford F100. So this is one of my other projects I'm working on. But I just wanted to show you what that stock lever looks like. So the cable comes up from the column, hooks on to this side, and then when you pull the shift lever, you can see how that ball works in that cam. So the nice thing, if you want to go to the junkyard and do this for yourself, is you just have to pull the bottom cover off. Like this is a 10 millimeter nut. This arm pops right off, and then you just need a screwdriver to pop that off that ball, and you've got that arm. So that makes things a lot easier and a lot cheaper. So today we are making our own automatic transmission shifter for a 4L60E. So this is something that I designed up. It's my third iteration, really second body, but third iteration. So this is the body that everything mounts to. So we'll have a 3/8 shoulder bolt, 2 inches long, a piece of 5/8 OD 1/2 inch ID tubing, and these you can just get at the hardware store. So these are I think they're 1 5/8 or 1 3/4 long bushing with a 1/2 inch bore and a 3/8 ID and about I think it's a 1/16 shoulder. So I just took a piece of tubing, cut it down to the appropriate length, and then just press the 2 bushings in. And that will sit right in here. So I just allowed myself a little bit of clearance for it to move side to side. Doesn't need to be tight. Here's the shifting arm. It's inside the truck on the column. So I think this is off from a 2003 Chevy Escalade, but it's basically the same from 2000 to probably 2007. And it has the ends on it that hook into your shifter cable. So there's a piece that goes off here where a ball rides in to make this actuation work. I just cut that off, and then I found that when you take the bushings out of here, it's about 5/8. So that'll just slide on that just perfectly. So from the pivot arm to where the cable mounts, I'll have to give you that dimension on the screen. I can't remember it off my head. But that's what that is for. And then I spaced it up from the center line here to here the same amount as this distance. The only thing is I did not have the right thickness steel. So stock, this is about 140 thousandths, and I have 5/8 or 3/16. So what I covered everything out of, and that's about 180. So I just ground this down to put the flat end that it mounts against here, and that allows the ears on the stock cable to lock back in here. So it works really well. So there you can see everything together. Don't have a net on that side, but this will do for demonstration purposes. Got a little bit of wiggle in there, but this just rotates on that shaft. And what I'm thinking of doing is putting another piece of the same tubing up here, because it's got a 1/2 inch bore. So we can use a piece of 1/2 inch threaded rod or cut the head off the hex bolt off from a bolt and slide that down in the tube, weld it in place, and then you've got your threads wherever we decide up here for your shifting knob. So next thing we need to do is find out exactly where this sits and compare it to the original to make sure that this is going to fit in the car correctly. So I got everything connected back up, and I got this trimmed down so we don't have any clearance issues. And what I did was I went through and marked, you can see a little black mark there and a mark here, just to see where, park was and drive was, because I want drive to be basically straight up and down or a little bit back. So when it sits in the car, it's just in a natural position. So let's see if I can do this with my hand. So all the way forward, of course, is park. Then you got reverse, neutral, drive. So that all lines up. 3, 2, 1. So now what I have to do is figure out, I think I'm going to use another piece of this. I think it's 5/8 1/2 inch bore, and we'll tack it onto here, and then we'll make some sort of plate, and this will just kind of slide into it. It doesn't have to be connected or anything, because we'll use that with that being welded, and we got a little bit of clearance on this side. That'll kind of set that position and just kind of free float. But use this part here on the shifter handle itself. And the nice thing about this 5/8 is it's got, I think, 16th wall, so that we can cut the head off of a bolt, 1/2 inch bolt, and run that up, and then use nylock or whatever into whatever we decide for a shifter handle, which will sit somewhere up in here, of course, and it'll make it nice and easy. So let's see if we can make a shifter handle that'll work. So here's my little concept. So put a little bevel in there with a grinder and drill the 300 thousandths hole with my stepper drill, and that could be a shifter. So I'll kind of tack this in place and square it up, and we'll see how this works. Well, then I tacked it together. So I tacked it on this side, of course, tacked it on the other side, just see what will happen. So I tacked it with this piece in, just to make it nice and rigid, and I put my bolt back in and a little washer nut on it. So let's hook it up and see what it looks like. Here we have it. That is the drive position. Let's see what it looks like from the passenger side. Pretty cool. Fairly light. So this will be the first time I've moved it. Let's make sure the tacks don't break. Let's see if we can do this one-handed. Oh yeah. That could be a problem. Let's see how far down that handle goes. That's dry, or park. So, that's why you tack everything together. We'll have to take a look at that in the car, see what it looks like. Maybe we'll have to put a little whoop-de-doo or mount the aluminum lever here in a different spot. Might have to move this back up or towards the front, but besides that, it doesn't take a lot of force, and of course this isn't bolted down to anything, so it actually works quite nice. Just there's a lot of throwing that lever. So it's the end of the day, and of course we'll think about this some more, but for rev number 2, 3, 2.3, whatever, I'm happy with that. Just have to figure out how to get how we can get the shifter ball not to hide away on us. Well, we had the transmission hooked up and mocked in place. We decided to put the seat in and start bending up just like I did before. Just bent some 36-inch piece of 20-gauge sheet metal and into a 90 degree and started bending it up to see how it's going to look for the, I guess you'd call it the instrument cluster console, but it's just to hide everything. So let's just give us a concept.